On today's episode of the CLS Experience, we have a very delightful treat. He is a real estate tycoon and the CEO of Real Estate Worldwide, a software training company for real estate investors, and the founder of the Boardroom Mastermind, the most elite real estate investor networking group in the country. No big deal. He's flipped thousands of homes over the past 15 years and helped tens of thousands of people learn how to do the same. Big facts. He is passionate about teaching what he's learned in a simple way so that it's easy for anyone to connect the dots. And the way he articulates his knowledge is extremely digestible. He is a fantastic husband and the proud father of 3 amazing kids. And he's here to teach you how to build the ultimate life of your dreams. He's just a juggernaut in all facets of life and a badass human. Please welcome the dynamic, multifaceted, battle-tested, and handsome, abundant Kent Clothier. How you doing, Kent?
What is happening, baby? Glad to be here.
I'm so excited for this. We were chatting for a while before we record. For the audience, this is not the first time you and I collaborated, but I couldn't be more excited. We're about 6 million now. The show's breaking out. For my listeners, in case you're not familiar, my best suggestion is do a deep dive, play catch up, check out all the awesome things Kent has going on. What I think is most valuable today is we just have a dynamite conversation. Before we dive in, we're going to get a little weird. You ready for me, Kent?
Let's do it, baby.
What is your superpower, brother?
Oh, man, great question. I would say at this point in my life, 53 years old.
53 is young.
There you go. I have definitely honed in my skills of kind of cutting through the noise and the confusion, taking all that wisdom experience, all the wins, all the losses, and regardless of who I'm sitting down with, whether it's one of my private coaching clients or one of my investors or one of my mastermind people, but kind of separating fact from fiction, be able to reach right into somebody and just kind of reveal what they need to do, maybe see things that they don't see. It's kind of the benefit of being in business for 30 years and kind of cutting to it really quick and helping people to connect dots really, really fast. I would say if I had to nail it at this point in my life, that's probably it.
Yeah, so good. And I can confirm I'm a big fan of your work and so forth. And isn't it interesting? Like, that's what a good coach or mentor or someone that's a little bit further ahead can do is help somebody get a little perspective. And based upon my experience, when I totally reinvented myself from Wall Street to doing what I'm doing, I didn't have experience in this arena. And so quickly, for the first time in my life, I pulled my ego aside and realized I don't know what I don't know. And I started surrounding myself with great people like you and Dave that we were talking about that are a little bit further ahead. And it's been an absolute cheat code to my success. It accelerated it. And I imagine that's one of the big inspirations for your awesome mastermind as well, right?
Yeah, man. I mean, look, yeah, as the saying goes, you do it long enough, you'll figure some stuff out. I'm really fortunate in that I got into business at a very, very young age. I was really successful by most measures, by the time I was 30, and then got humbled down, lost everything, had to start it all over in every way, personally and professionally. And, when you go through some of that stuff, when you're in it, you don't exactly understand why this might be happening to me. And then you realize pretty quickly as you get a little bit of time that it all happened for you. Right. And so as I look back to your point, all that perspective, all that clarity, all that wisdom, all those scars, that's all the stuff that matters, man. It makes you invaluable. And just like my mentors have been to me over the years, I mean, it puts you in a place to where, yeah, you can really help somebody streamline every area of their life really quickly when you have the opportunity. And so to me, I love that that's where my life is right now.
This is so good, brother. And where you're at now, I know that if you're going through a rut or some obstacles, you have the mentality that life happens for us. So even if you can't see it at that moment, somehow, some way, this is going to lead to real growth. But maybe way back when, and I know I can relate to this too, when you're going through it, it's not so much fun, but you just got to know that although you may not see it now, somehow, some way you're being protected, propelled, and promoted to something more in alignment, right?
Yeah. I mean, what's when you're in that stuff, right? And we all go through it. It sounds very cliche to hear guys like us say what we're saying right now. But I can tell you for sure that and everybody I've ever worked with and inside of my own life that has proven to be true 100% of the time. That I may not get it and I may not understand it, but one thing's for sure, it's not going to kill me. And it might be rough and I might not have all the answers, but if I seek out the advice and wisdom of others and keep my head down and just keep moving, every single time in the end, it has not only has it worked out, ironically, I say this all the time, you're either learning or earning. Not only has it worked out, but the knowledge that I have gained by going through it is invaluable. I mean, you just have to have enough of the mental fortitude, the guts to keep moving and realize that most give up. If you will just keep moving, you will be so much more valuable to yourself and everybody else around you down the line.
Hell yeah. Amen. That's where we dropped the mic, but we're just getting warmed up. And I know your story is very well documented when you were at your rock bottom, so to speak. And for me, I was a few years back, and it wasn't like something happened and then I just ricocheted off. I sat there for a little bit more than I'd like to admit, but I know that it was all part of the journey. And then I started looking up and I started to get confidence and I started running these marathons, and that was like a gateway for me. I'm curious, when you were going through it, did you just get up right away, or did you kind of have to go through a little bit and feel some stuff?
No, actually, dude, I got, look, I was on top of the mountain, right? I was running a $2 billion a year business. And I was this guy at 30 years old that all of that, all the accolades, all of the money, all of the success was all because of me. All you had to do was ask me, right? Thank God social media did not exist back then. I would have 100% been the douchebag we all make fun of. I was just that guy. And so for me, that fall from grace and, all the way down to where I had a few $1,000s in my bank account, because I walked out of there, and then over the course of 2 years, not only did I watch this business I had built continue to move upward, but my fortunes were all going down. That was a really hard fall for me. So no, I did not get back up gracefully. There was nothing about it. I was in an extremely dark place. I can tell you, to say that I was suicidal would be putting it mildly. I mean, it was a bad gig for me. And luckily, as fate would have it, I just at some point figured out that I just didn't want to be a victim anymore. I did not like who I had become. My girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, kind of stepped in and said, "Hey, let's just restart. Let's just figure this out. Let's just hit the restart button and go, reset button." And I found my way to real estate investing very specifically, did not know anything about it. And having something that I was quickly really good at was probably the single biggest thing that kind of saved me, because it kind of gave me purpose again. Like, I'm not, when you go through that stuff, you're just filled with self-doubt. Like, was it all a fluke? Was I ever as good as I thought I was? All that stuff, right? So I'm very empathetic with people that are going through it. But getting a little bit of momentum meant everything. And when I had a little bit of momentum, then I was like, okay, maybe I am this guy. And then, fast forward 20 some odd years later, and you figure out, I was this guy the whole time. I needed to get some perspective. I needed to be humbled. I needed to get knocked down. I needed to understand how much of a gift all of this is every day. And so it was the greatest thing, ironically, think about this. It was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. The fact that I would say that 20 years later is crazy to me, because at the moment those words would have never come out of my mouth, but it was literally the single best thing that everything good that has come out of my life in this second stage of my life is because of that failure.
This is so good.
I mean, when you think about, I found my wife, 2 amazing kids, live in a beautiful, oceanfront home here in San Diego, have tens of thousands of people that I've been able to impact over the years, been able to make lots of money and create I get to live the life I want to live. None of that would have happened if I'd stayed where I was.
Yeah, this is so awesome and so relatable for anyone, because spoiler, obstacles, adversity, obviously some different than others, but is a part of life. And me too, right? And like, had it not been for that, you wouldn't have pivoted, restarted, done all the stuff that you're doing now. And it's just, you can, as Steve Jobs said, you can't connect the dots looking forward, only backwards. And
One of my favorite sayings, brother. I love that you just pointed that out. I can't even tell you that I quote it all the time.
It's such a crazy, beautiful journey, this thing that is called life. And also you mentioned like real estate specifically, you were passionate about it, and that gave you purpose. And for me too. And I think I stayed in rock bottom a little bit longer because I still had my career. I was a business owner on Wall Street, but I wasn't passionate about it. And as a result, I was anxious about the future. I was depressed about the past. I was anything but mindful and present. And then I started running, and I was excited about it. And that ultimately was the gateway to the lockdown, when I figured I finally put it all together. But I think everybody it's so important to be interested in what you're doing, because that gives you purpose, that generates desire, gets you up in the morning, has you enthusiastic and excited, and that's priceless.
Yeah, I mean, we've all heard it. You get more of what you focus on. And ironically, if you don't have anything to focus on except all your problems and challenges, man, the world has a way of serving it, just keep serving it back up to you. Yeah. So finding the thing that you can focus on that matters, that moves the needle. And it, I'm not in any way, shape or form am I saying, hey, you got to go find your passion coming out of the gate. No. You just have to build momentum. Give yourself an opportunity. Find something that you can kind of sink your teeth into, whether it's a project, whether it's a business, whether it's whatever it is, that kind of gets the momentum going. And then sooner rather than later, that momentum really starts to kick in. And to me, that in business and in life is the greatest asset you could have. I say it all the time, like, give me ignorance on fire versus knowledge on ice. In other words, so many people overthink and try to, get themselves mentally out of a situation versus just, man, sometimes it's okay to just be ignorant and go, find something, move. Like for you, it was running, and it turned into something that changed your life, right? For me at the time, it was business, and it changed my life. And so I think momentum is everything.
Yeah, momentum is often the hardest thing to get and the easiest to lose. But once you have that, the wind's at your back, you're excited. And you just brought up such a good point, such a good nugget. It doesn't even have to be a career. It could be a side hustle, a project, a sport, something to just sink your teeth into to start to get an edge. And then you kind of build some confidence. And then that opens up, makes you available for whatever's next.
100%. It's all that belief system, man. I mean, it is not seeing as believing. It's believing as seeing. Like you gotta start reinforcing it and seeing it and feeling it and just getting your mojo back, man. And again, I think the thing that's the most challenging is when you're in that place, you feel a little isolated, like nobody else understands what you're going through. And the reality of it is it's just the opposite of that. Like everybody has challenges. I don't care who they are, whether it's me, Dave Meltzer, Ed Milet, it doesn't matter. People have challenges every single day. It's what they do about them that is different, and how they frame it so they can keep that momentum up.
That's it. 100%. Couldn't agree more. I obviously want to talk about all the exciting stuff you have going on now, but one of the things that you're really big on, and I wanted the audience to hear this, is the concept of time. And the time is now is a part of your brand, it's the name of your podcast and so forth. And I'm not 100% sure, but I think this might have started on that crazy story back in the day with the airplane, but maybe not. Tell us why you're so obsessed with the concept of time and what it means to you, brother.
Yeah. I think that, again, going back to perspective, right? And something I do to myself all the time is making sure that I'm present in the moment. Like this, as you get older, I don't know if you've experienced this in life, but I have. As you get older, you certainly have people that start to pass away, and it's a very humbling experience, right? Ironically, in the history of the world, nobody has ever gotten out alive. So it's going to happen to everybody, but it doesn't take away from the emotional impact and the reality of that situation and being so faced with it. And so I've noticed it. And one time in particular, my mentor, who was also my uncle, passed away a few years ago. And this is a guy who I admired everything about him. He was the epitome of success to me. Like I modeled everything I wanted to be, was just like him. And he had spent most of his life, ironically, traveling around the world, building, one of the largest travel companies in the world, right? And CEO, big cruise company, and then he retired at the age of 60, and they gave him a $30 million exit package. And I mean, he was a big deal, real big deal. And again, I thought, outside looking in, I wanted everything that he had. And then I watched, a few months after he left, he got diagnosed with cancer, ironically, right? And a few months later, about 6 months later, I got a phone call from my mother, who happened to be in Daytona Beach, Florida, where my Uncle John was, and said, he is going to die in the next few days, or the next few hours, and you need to get here as fast as you can. So I drove as fast as I could from Delray Beach, Florida to Daytona Beach. It was about 5 hours up the Florida Turnpike, just trying to get there because I was the one person he was asking for. And when I got there, he was all hooked up to, and could hardly, he couldn't talk because he had all the ventilator and everything. But he had a whiteboard, and I'll never forget him. As I came in, he kind of lit up and held my hand, and then wrote on the whiteboard, "Celebrate my life." And then he erased it and he said, I just wish I had more time, and died holding my hand. And I will never forget that, because here I am, and people do this all the time, delaying life. And our entire, American dream is based on this. We're going to retire when we're 65, right? I mean, we were all sold this kind of nonsense. And he had basically designed his entire life to spend every waking moment away from his family, building a business so he could ultimately get tens of millions of dollars in the bank, only to 6 months later, when he was dying, that $30 million could not buy him one more minute. And it crushed me to see that and to realize, what am I doing? Like, I'm designing everything around business away from, and I tell myself, we do this as guys, we justify it, pounding on our chest and saying, well, I'm doing it for my family, I want to provide, and all this stuff, right? And the reality is none of that is true. That's just what we tell ourselves. And then, as fate would have it, as you alluded to, about 6 months later, I happened to be on an airplane with my wife and my young daughter, and we were separated in the plane because we booked our tickets at 2 different times, and flying home from me speaking on a stage, and I'm connected in Atlanta. So we're leaving Atlanta, flying into West Palm Beach, and we're probably 45 minutes into the flight, and the plane completely fills with smoke. And immediately all the buzzers start going off. It's basically like somebody is standing in first class with a fire extinguisher, just pointing it right down. I mean, white smoke is pouring out of the front of the plane. And I'm in 19A, they're in 26E and F over to my right. And so at that exact moment, the flight attendant gets on the speaker, and she is freaking out. You can hear the panic, and that didn't help. And then they put the plane into a nosedive, because they don't tell you this when they're checking you on the plane, but if they think the plane's on fire, they put it into a nosedive to try to get it down below 13,000 feet, where the cabin no longer has to be pressurized. And so we are on fire, going into a nosedive, buzzers going off, mask dropping, screaming, crying. And the only scream that I get to hear is 6 rows behind me. I get to hear my 5-year-old daughter screaming for daddy, and I can't get to her. I can't do one thing to console her. And I'm looking at my wife in the eye, and we are saying goodbye. I mean, this is about as real. Well, it's certainly as real as I've ever had it, where, this is happening. This is it's so real that to this day, I have a recording of myself on my phone to my son saying goodbye, in hopes that when we did indeed crash, somebody would find my phone and somehow get it in his hands. And that's how real. And, as fate would have it, they diverted our plane. They cleared the jetway. We made an emergency landing in Tampa. It was intense. I mean, the captain basically said, I need you guys all to listen to the crew, and when you're given the instructions, you need to brace for impact, brace for impact, brace for impact. We will say it 3 times. And like I said, we got down, plane, they brought out the fire trucks. We got off the plane, we got out of there, all that. But that moment of clarity, in combination with what I just experienced, 8 months earlier with my uncle, really helped me to understand what is the most important thing. And everybody thinks this is about money when it comes to business, and it is just not. I can assure you it is about time. I don't care whether on your deathbed, you are not going to have somebody come up and grab your hand and say, I just wish I'd sold one more thing, or I wish I had just bought one more. That is never going to happen. Somebody may say, I wish I had one more hour, one more day, or one more week with dad or mom or whoever. And to remember that, and to respect that, and to, really, really understand that this is a fleeting moment. And, we live in the greatest country at the greatest time, where information is so readily available to us, where literally anybody at any moment with a decision and the right attitude, the right education, the right inspiration, could literally go start a business today that could make them millions of dollars, and no one would prevent you from doing that. I mean, it is shocking, the advantages that we have. And so when people sit around and play the role of the victim and act like somehow today or next week or next month or next quarter is somehow promised to them, it is the most agitating thing in the world to me. Because I got news for you. When you're at 30,000 feet, and you think it's all about getting ready to go down, that is not what you're thinking. Like you will be grateful for every day after that. Like this is happening, and it's going to happen to all of us. And what you've just got to realize that this is that moment. This is the day, and the only one you get to do everything you can, and to act like I will put off my dreams, my challenge, whatever, and just get to it next whenever is terribly irresponsible. I mean, last time I checked, there was over 900,000 people sitting in hospital beds today. And they're praying like, man, it sure would be cool to get on a podcast, Kent and Craig, and just hang out for an afternoon and just sit around and talk like that. That would be an amazing day to them, right? And there's people just don't get what we get. And so it's really important to focus and understand that don't put off playing with your kids. Don't put off, kissing your loved ones. Don't put off fighting for your dreams. Don't put anything off. This is the moment, and go get it.
Brother, first of all, thank you for pulling back the curtain with the vulnerability and so forth. I imagine you tell that story probably often. But I mean, that was as real and raw and deep as a story I've heard on the show. And it made me feel some type of way, and I can only imagine it. So acknowledgement to you, you're a gifted storyteller, but just going through that. And then that was after seeing your mentor and so forth. And it really does put things in perspective. And something that I've learned, I would say over the last year, that's really been a breakthrough for me is if I ever find myself in a rut where it's like it used to be a month or a week or a day, now it's just a moment, and I catch myself and say, I just want to stack magical moments. I don't want to make I don't want to make this day a masterpiece. I want to make this moment. In other words, I don't care about dinner. I'm not worried about what happened 30 minutes ago. It's just me and you. How can we build rapport, add value, and have the greatest conversation possible? And what I noticed is that if I treat every single, and this is great for the listeners, if you treat every single activity like that, mindfulness is the portal to expansion. That's where the magic happens. And if you do that all day long, and then another day, and then another day, you're just in the moment, you end up getting a ton of momentum, and a lot of things happen to go right. But it all starts with being mindful and present in that moment and appreciating the time.
Well, I mean, one of the most gangster things that I've done to myself, and I would tell anybody to do this is not as challenging as people think it is. I would tell every single person, that hears this or sees this is go today, if you're a man, go put number 78 in your calculator. If you're a woman, put 82 and subtract your current age and go multiply that times 365. And then you would have some idea, statistically speaking, of how many days you have left on the planet. Because average American female lives to 82, average American male lives to 78. And if you will take that number.
Wait, can you run that back in? I'm going to do it with you live.
Okay. So take 78 and subtract your current age. How old are you?
Just turned 38 years young.
Okay, minus 38, 40. Yep. So 40 times 365.
Mm-hmm.
Statistically speaking, you have 14,600 days left on this planet. Okay, now it's also reasonable to assume that you will be asleep for 8 hours a night. So take that number and multiply it times 0.67. So 14,000 times 0.67 is 9,380 waking days. Now, I promise you, brother, if you'll take that number and you will go put it on your mirror in your master bath where you brush your teeth and comb your hair, right, every day, and you count those days down every day with a dry erase marker, just erase that last digit, do it again. The amount of clarity and focus that brings to the right individuals is shocking, because when you're watching your life tick away and you understand that every single one of those is precious, and I don't care whether you're 21 or you're 51, that number that you see on that mirror is too small. But that's the fact. I mean, the number is true before you and I got on this call. It will be true after we get off this call. That's the number. And if that's the number, then why would you not, to your point earlier, try to wring everything out of every one of those days that you possibly can? And then, to your point, all the collection of moments and memories and opportunities that are presented to us every single day, make them matter. I mean, would you be proud if this were your last day? Would you be proud? Would this be the way you wanted to go out? Because if it is, man, that's a life well lived. But if you know in your heart of hearts that, man, I didn't leave it on the field today, well, there's the opportunity. just do better tomorrow, do better than, just that's to me has been the key to everything I've been able to achieve, certainly over the last few years, is the sense of urgency. Is that it is, man, it's humbling when you realize that this is just the reality of the situation. Nobody gets to sit around and be here for, hundreds and hundreds of years. We get this fleeting moment, and we have all this opportunity in front of us, all these connections we get to make, and all these special moments we get to create. And if you're just super and focused on it, then life gets pretty good pretty quickly.
Yeah, this is so good, brother, straight up. And when I reinvented myself, I did this eulogy exercise where at the time I visualized, if this was it for me, did I leave a legacy? Did I make an impact? Did I contribute? Was I
Right.
happy? Similar to what you just said, and the answer was not even close. And that's when I started to put together what we're doing now. And I can honestly say over the last 2.5 years, it's been a hell of a ride. It wasn't only a career reinvention. I just got engaged, all the things. Obviously, there's so much more to do, but that's such a good perspective for anybody listening today. And then you make it even more real by literally counting down the days. I mean, something that just came to mind is like, if there's something bothering you or you're stressed out or anxious about something, what's the point? Just
Right.
allocate that energy into the next
No doubt, brother. You nailed it right there. What's the point? I mean, look, we're all human beings. We all have the same, we all have our own human experience. But if you have the opportunity to take a step back and realize there are real victims in this world, there is war, there is famine, there is lack of water, there is lack of, there's real poverty, there is lack of clean sanitation. I had the opportunity to go to Haiti a few years ago. I mean, you see what real poverty looks like, what real suffering looks like. And then guys like you and I, we're having a bad day, or anybody, and you were like, whoa. Okay, my problems, thank God these are my problems. Thank God I get to do this today. Thank God I get to solve these problems. Yeah, they may be a little overwhelming. I may feel like the world's kind of caving in on me, but man, it could be infinitely worse. And at least I woke up this morning. I'm healthy. I take care of myself. 2 feet hit the floor. Let's go attack the day. Let's figure it out. I don't have to solve it all today, but what I definitely need to do is attack the day. And that, when you kind of get yourself, that's what I mean by ignorance on fire versus knowledge on ice. People a lot of time try to get into their own head to solve problems. A lot of times it's just, man, appreciate the day. Appreciate what you got. Like, this is such a blessing that you and I get to do this right now, right? And it would be so easy to act like it wasn't.
Yeah.
And it's just, but it is. I mean, think about what we're doing. We get to hang out and talk to people we want to talk to and have an amazing conversation and share it with the world. I mean, something as simple as this is worth being grateful for.
100%. And I was talking to someone recently and we were joking, but it's not really a joke. It's like, if you were with a bunch of people and you threw your problems into a circle, most likely you threw your problems so big, you probably want yours back compared to how other people have
That's
it.
a great way to say it. Yeah, that's good.
That's perspective.
That's good. That's really good. Yeah. I mean, there's just, look, I could go on and on all day about it. The reality of this is that was a pivotal mind shift for me several years ago. And it really, because as an entrepreneur, it's very natural for me to get caught up in the game of building, right? The game of business and the things that light me up. And I can tell you with my second lease on life, with my wife and my 2 daughters, I'm a better father, better husband, better leader, better man, better son than at any other time in my life. And a huge component of that is just perspective and focusing on the things that matter with the limited amount of time that I have left.
Yeah. I could promise.
And here's the irony, bro. I'll share this with you. This is even crazy.
Please.
Is that with that, my businesses are more successful than they've ever been. Which that's the crazy thing, because you don't think it would actually work that way. It seems counterintuitive. The reality of it is, it's exactly opposite. Is that because when you're focused and you're intentional in business, that's that dedicated time. And then when you're not, it's dedicated somewhere else. And so you become much more wildly efficient and much more attractive when you kind of get comfortable in your own skin to your customers and your partners.
Beautiful way to say it. And I can promise you, and I'm going to commit right now, the next time I'm feeling a little bit anxious or as an entrepreneur, whatever the case may be, I'm going to stop myself and think of Kent in this conversation. But what's the point of can I do something about it? Okay, great. If not, what's the next move? And just move on.
Amen, brother.
Yeah, this is so good. We're gonna land the plane with a lot of the stuff that you have going on now, but I want to hit you with a couple of your hits. And I was checking out your content, as I suggest the entire audience do immediately following this conversation. And one of the things I saw you say I thought was pretty cool was change the words "I can't" to "I choose not to."
Well, it kind of echoes the same thing. I mean, I think what happens to people is, well, I shouldn't say I think, I know what happens to people is that people unknowingly use lazy language. And what happens is you have to realize that everything that comes out of your mouth, you speak your future. You know, if you are trying to move in a certain direction, you have to be very aware of the words that are coming out of your mouth, because there's always one person listening, and that's you. And your internal dialogue is extremely important when it comes to being successful at anything. And when you tell yourself, I can't do something, or I cannot do something, that is more times than not, that is just simply not true. It's a word that we use, but what the reality of it is, and if you're just being honest with yourself, it is, I'm choosing not to do this. So I can't lose weight. I can't quit smoking. I can't go find a new job. I can't, whatever comes next is usually the BS we're telling ourselves. When you say, I choose not to, or I choose not to make this a priority, I choose not to focus on this thing, I choose not, that's what's really happening. And in the right hands, when you change the conversation, that doesn't feel good. When when you're honest and say, you know what, I just choose not to eat right, or I choose not to get in the gym, or I choose not to take care of myself, or whatever you, in the right hands, the right people, that does not feel good. It doesn't feel congruent. And that's how change is created. Because we will run from that. We will push away from that. Like if you acknowledge that it's a choice, well, then you will start choosing differently. But if you use words that don't acknowledge it's a choice, well, it's easy to play the role of a victim. Somehow the world has wronged you. Well, I can't lose weight. No, that's not true. That is definitely not true. I can't take care of myself, or I can't. No. That is for sure not true. Now, are there hard choices on the other side of, I have to choose this? Absolutely. But it's still a choice, baby. And when you choose, a lot of times you will start choosing differently, and it will be painful, and it will, but that's the way greatness is. I mean, greatness has never been achieved without struggle, ever. I mean, the greatest MMA fighters on the planet that are at the highest ranks, they did not get there by not stepping in the ring. Like, they actually had to go in there and get punched out and knocked out, and thousands of hours, tens of thousands of hours, and choked out, and black eyes, and broken bones, and all the pain and struggle and heartache to achieve greatness. Mediocrity is easy. Greatness requires choice and struggle.
This is so good, brother. So basically, correct me if I'm wrong, if you ask someone who's a little out of shape, let's just say they have to lose 20 pounds for their daughter's wedding, and they're, instead of saying I can't, they catch themselves and they say, I choose not to lose the weight that I committed to. Now all of a sudden that feels weird to them, and now they have an opportunity, because they're aware, to make a different choice tomorrow on how to better themselves.
You got it. That's it. That's it. It's just a lazy way of speaking. And unfortunately, one thing I absolutely know to be true is that you are always listening to the words that come out of your mouth. And 90% of the stuff that we talk about throughout the day, we're not really paying attention to how, are we giving ourselves permission to be great? Are we using empowering language? Are we encouraging others? Are we encouraging ourselves? We're not really paying attention. We're just talking, right? But if you'll pay attention, you'll find more times than not, especially if you're struggling, that the words that are coming out are the words of a victim, are the words of somebody who's playing the role of a victim. And you start changing that language and changing the way it will change the way you think, and it will certainly change the decisions you make. Again, back to my point earlier, there are real victims in the world. Do not get me wrong. But in all likelihood, anybody listening to this podcast or watching is not one of them. Right? And I mean, again, it may come off a little harsh, it may come off a little arrogant, whatever it is. I mean, I just know it to be true inside of my own life and the people that I work with, that man, the details matter. And
100%. A lot of people I work with, I often correct them, and I change their word "if" to "when." Not if this happens, but when. And all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, that feels a little better.
Yeah. And again, it's back to what we're saying earlier, momentum. It's these little nuanced changes that kind of create this new sense of purpose, this new, like, I'm in control. Like, I have the ability to own my outcome. That, you know, that's the thing, is you're going to own your outcome either way. Wouldn't you want to own it fighting? Like fighting where I'm actually doing something on purpose and being intentional instead of looking up and, you know, being out of shape and in a miserable relationship, in a miserable job, and somehow telling yourself that all this happened to you. No, no, no. You are a product of your own decisions. Imagine the power when you understand that you can actually change and make better decisions and what that does in your life. Because that, to me, is the difference between the people that are great and not. It's just that they live life on purpose by design, kind of like what you were talking about earlier. Like, you just started making decisions. This is what it's going to look like. This is what, like, most people, you know, out there in the world, they just don't approach life that way. But there's nothing special about you or me. You know, we're not unique. We just understand the power of a decision and the power of following through on it and committing. And that's where all greatness has happened.
And also, a word that comes to mind when you were just being is being intentionality.
Amen, brother. Well, I'll even go one step further. You know, I'll tell you something that I think is really important that I could share with the audience. I think if you polled your audience right now and asked how many of them know exactly where they're going to be in the next 3 years, like exactly the place that they're trying to get to, the vast majority, if your experience was anything like mine, I don't care how successful they are, whatever, the vast majority do not have a destination in mind. And if you think about it from an irony standpoint, like if you were coming out here to San Diego to come to my office, one of the very first questions you would ask me is, okay, can you give me your office address? I want to make sure I show up on time, right? Or, you know, if your fiance asks you to go pick up something at the store, you would for sure ask her, it would not be something, you would for sure say, babe, what exactly do you want? Send me a picture, right? So these little decisions every single day, we naturally start with a destination in mind. Like, tell me what success looks like. And then I'll back into it, whether I'm shopping or what you definitely don't do is you don't go to the grocery store and buy 50 random things off the aisle and then come in and just dump them out on the kitchen counter and say, is any of this the stuff you wanted? You would look and sound like a moron, right? But it is exactly what people do with life every day. They grab at a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and they just keep trying to grab at things, and then they look up and 2 or 3, I'm like, is any of this what makes me happy? Instead of, tell me exactly what you want. Tell me exactly where you want to be in 3 years. Tell me exactly who you want to be spending time with, how much money you want to make, where you want to be vacationing, what are the special moments you want to create, and then let's reverse engineer. Let's work backwards. How to design a business, how to design income, how do you design all these things that get me in the place where that can be a reality. That just makes common sense, but most never do it.
Yeah. I love to reverse
That's to your point of being intentional. That's exactly what that's about.
I'm big on reverse engineering. And also, like, when I think of the law of attraction, I know that gets used a little bit too much these days. I'm not sure everyone really understands it, but even just that, like setting, like you have an idea, okay, now it's a possibility, but then you actually set an intention and now you take inspired action. Now it becomes a probability because you're going towards something.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just, and it's really, that's extremely common in business where people go, and especially the new business owners, they'll start on a path and create something, and they're just trying to solve a problem. The problem they're trying to solve out of the gate is revenue. Like, I need revenue, I need income. I'm trying to, you know, and it becomes a very slippery slope because that momentum and all that it's hard to separate that and then suddenly turn it into a business and become a CEO. But that becomes infinitely easier if I understand exactly what I'm trying to do, right? I have to go through different stages. Here's my turn-by-turn directions, but I know exactly where this business is going to be in 3 years, and I'm reverse engineer exactly how that's going to go. And you can do the exact same thing in your life. I mean, look, I'm a redneck from Dallas, Texas. I certainly do not. If anybody had ever told me I would live on an oceanfront house in San Diego, you know, La Jolla, California, one of the most beautiful places on the planet, and, you know, ride a skateboard to my office every day at 53 years old, I'd have told you you're crazy. But I'm proof that if you decide and move intentionally, pretty much anything is possible, right? I mean, that is somebody that is a force to be reckoned with. Somebody that's moving on purpose.
100%. A lot of times when I first started doing my keynotes, people would ask me, like, how did you do what you've done in a relatively short amount of time? And the first answer that came to mind, brother, is I decided to. I had some clarity, and I decided that this is what I was going to do. And I know that's not the sexiest answer because everyone wants strategies, tactics, but what was step one and so forth? But that's really where it started.
Amen.
It
really is. I mean, and it's, people want it to be complex. The reality of it is it's a decision which leads to another and another and another. And more times than not, they are uncomfortable, they are unsettling, they are intimidating, but you're moving on purpose because you understand where you're trying to go and you will not be denied. And that's just what it looks like, man. And that's the difference between greatness and mediocrity is people are just, the great ones have decided that they matter. Their life matters. Their time here matters. What they want out of life matters. And they're not willing to negotiate with themselves.
Okay, brother. These are my favorite conversations because preparation breeds confidence. Of course, I had a lot of stuff that I wanted to hit on, but this is so organic. It's just going, it's just flowing. I think these are most valuable for the audience. I'm gonna gotta land the plane with this, and we'll talk about the exciting stuff we have going on now. You mentioned a little while back when you started your second act, or you kind of reinvented yourself. You found real estate, or real estate found you, and you had a passion for it. You fell in love with it. And maybe this is a loaded question, but I'm just curious. What do you love about real estate? Where do I begin, right?
Well, you know what, dude? I'm not even sure I would say there are definitely things I love about real estate. What attracted me to real estate was that I was broke, right? And that I figured out really quickly going through a seminar and investing in myself out of the gate 20 years ago, that it was a business that allowed me to move the needle relatively quickly, meaning I could make 20, 30, 40, $50,000 a pop in, for 2 weeks worth of work, 3 weeks worth of work, right? And not a lot of businesses are designed to do that. And so I gravitated to that pretty quickly. And it fit well with what I had been doing in the grocery industry. I'd owned an arbitrage business before that was kind of flipping truckloads of groceries. So now all of a sudden I was just flipping houses. So the substitute of the widget was, it meant, I understood it very quickly. And then nowadays, I will tell you what I love about real estate is just the leverage of it all. The ability to create generational wealth in real estate is just phenomenal, right? I mean, the entire tax code, or not the entire, but a good portion of the tax code is designed for people to invest into real estate, right? I mean, there are massive tax breaks, there are massive incentives to get into real estate. Literally, the banking system is designed to give you 75% of the money for you to go and buy a piece of real estate. Your ability to effectively have someone else pay down all your debt that you owe to the U.S. government, or a bank that's backed by the U.S. government, and create cash flow and massive tax advantages. I mean, when you start to stack it all up, you realize this is the way it's really done. It will never be a product. You'll never get rich by your own efforts. You may create real income, but real wealth is created by getting your money, making you money. And real estate is an amazing vehicle to do that, with massive leverage, and with, again, the right partners, the right strategies, the right leverage in place, and the returns that you can create. I've become very passionate about that component of it. And quite frankly, real estate, it's almost like if you said something like, hey, what are your thoughts on the internet? Well, the internet is so vast. It means so many things different to so many people. I mean, you could get a million different, and real estate's very similar, right? Real estate could be single family properties. It could be multifamily properties. It could be commercial properties. It could be, self-storage, RV parks, hotels, the hospitality. I mean, there's just so many different, you could totally just play on the debt side of it and just be the financing. It's just a fascinating business I feel like every single day I learn something a little bit different, a little more nuance, and get exposed to one more component that just makes me better at it than most. And so I find that's what I love about it now.
Amen, brother. Beautifully said. And one thing you talk about often is wholesaling real estate. For the audience listening, that might be, what exactly is that? How would you describe that?
So wholesaling is great when somebody is a little tight on resources, don't have a lot of capital. It is not, let's just be very clear, it is not real estate investing. It is an opportunity to create cash flow that you can then turn and put into real estate investing. So it's a great way to learn all the components, all the vocabulary, all the deal structure, all that kind of stuff with almost zero exposure. And here's the way I would explain wholesaling. If I went out today and I bought a lottery ticket down the street here at the store, and winning numbers came in, hey, Kent, you're gonna make $30 million, but we're gonna pay you $1 million a year for the next 30 years. Well, two things are going on. Number one, until I go cash that ticket in, the ticket is the asset. We can all agree, right? So that's got to go into a safety deposit box, somewhere safe, because this entitles me to $30 million. But equally, there are companies that will come in and buy that annuity, right? And basically say, hey, sell your position in this ticket to us. We'll give you 15 million cash right now, and we'll take the $30 million payout over the next 30 years, right? All day long. That is real estate wholesaling. Here's how it works. I go out and I go buy, or I go put a property under contract. I find a house that, once it's all fixed up, is going to be worth $350,000. I don't have the money, but I go and get the seller to sign a contract with me that they believe they are going to sell the house to me. And I mean, technically I could go raise the money, but again, just keeping it clean. But at this point, the value is the actual contract. Back to the lottery ticket. No different than that lottery ticket was really the asset. Well, the contract is the asset. So then I can take that asset and I can go effectively sell my position in that contract to somebody who really wants to buy it.
Buyer.
And so I have it under contract at 200 grand. Somebody wants to step in and pay me $25,000 for my position in the contract. They show up at the closing table with $225,000. 25 gets wired to me. 200,000 gets wired to the original seller. I literally have had no money in the deal. I was never required to close. I was just smart enough and clever enough to get it under contract and flip my interest in the contract to somebody else. That is wholesaling. And so it's a great place to start because, again, you don't need any capital. I mean, you can for sure go and vacant house that you see down the street, go door knock it, go do a little bit of research, find the owner, go figure, the grass is too tall, the papers are stacking up. That's a perfect property. Go find it and find out what you could potentially get it bought for. And then again, cash buyers right now, investors make up about 35% of the real estate market. So there's a never ending ocean of people that want to buy these houses, and they just couldn't get to the deal. It's just such a fragmented market. They didn't have the time or effort, or willing to put in the time or effort to go find that deal. So you can get compensated for that.
Yeah. I mean, this is wholesaling real one-on-one. This is great. This is unbelievable wisdom for anyone looking to start out. With all the stuff that you have going on now, the real estate and all that, what are you most excited about right now, brother?
Oh man, without a doubt, our Boardroom Mastermind, over the last 10 years, we have had this group, and I can tell you the last 3 to 4 years, we've just become savages about who we let in and who we don't let in, and so we have curated literally the best and brightest in that room, and it excites me every quarter to be able to get together with them because, I'm like you. I like having intelligent, high-level conversations with people that matter and who I want to spend time with, and the fact that we have a business that allows me to do that and allows me to pour into them and then equally get as much benefit from them and allows me access to more deals, more opportunity, whatever the case may be. That has become my extended family. And it's something I'm extremely, extremely proud of and very, very particular. I mean, we are hardcore when it comes to who we will let in there and who we won't let in there. But I can tell you, we are the benefactors of it at this point. It is an amazing collection of people that I enjoy doing life with.
Isn't that so much fun when you get to a place where you could be selective, right? It's exclusive. You get to choose who you want to be around. For the audience that's listening, it's a lot of entrepreneurs, people in real estate and so forth. If they wanted to get involved, how could they even go about that?
I mean, they just go to the boardroommastermind.com, fill it out. And then my team will jump on a call, and, full transparency. Our acceptance rate is about 5% into the group. With that being said, who are we looking for? we're looking for the go-givers. You got to be in the game. You have to actually be doing business, real business inside of the real estate space. You've got to come from a place of two places. One, no scarcity mindset whatsoever. You got to come in ready to, there's no stone unturned. Whatever you got going on, you'd be willing to share it with the world and pour into other people. Equally, you've got to come in very, got to be willing to immerse yourself, humble yourself, be vulnerable, come in there and ask for help from, everybody gets the opportunity every quarter to really step in front of a group of the best and brightest and get real feedback on real challenges that are happening in your life, both personally and professionally. And those are the types of people that can, when they come in, hey, I have a real business, it's really going well, but I need help here, whatever that is. And equally, I'm willing to help anybody else. That's who we're looking for, man. I mean, we've made the mistake years ago where basically if you could write the check, we'd let you in, and we've figured out real quick that is a recipe for disaster. And so now it's a little more intense to get in the room. But if you're in, man, our average member has been with us almost 5 years. Like, they just don't, this is the group. Like, these are the people you want to be around. These people you want to do life with right here.
Yeah.
And it's cool to get rich. It's a lot cooler to get rich with friends.
100%. And it's something that I had to learn when I stepped into this. And I just want to say to the audience, whether it's Kent's or something else, and I have my own as well, getting in those rooms makes all the difference. And one, it's contagious, right? There's people a little bit further ahead. It's also, there's something to be said about you taking your knowledge and pouring back into other people. That feels pretty good too.
Amen, dude.
Yeah,
it is the secret. You mentioned earlier the cheat codes. Like,
yep,
this is the cheat code. And I wish that everybody could understand that, because you're asking somebody to write a check, $30, $40, $50, $60,000, but this will be writing the checks, the easy part, man. I mean, getting in there and humbling yourself down to the place where you are open to other people who are very experienced, guys that have 100 million, 200, $300 million net worth, all pouring into you. Sometimes it's hard for our type A personalities to make ourselves vulnerable, man. But when you do, and I know you've experienced the same thing, when you've got guys like a Dave Meltzer or an Ed Milet or some of our other friends pouring into you, you couldn't even put a price tag on that, because what that does for you and how fast that connects dots and compresses time is shocking, right? One conversation, at lunch, or one conversation over a beer, or whatever the case may be, could literally be the one thing that flips the whole script on you and puts your business on a whole nother trajectory. And that's where it gets pretty exciting.
Yeah, and not only could be, it most likely will be.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing's for sure, if you put yourself in that environment, the likelihood of that happening increases exponentially. If you sit on the outside with your face pressed up against the glass, wondering what it looks like to be in the cool kids club, you're going to wonder for a while. Like, you got to actually, again, back to earlier, what have you got to lose? You got to actually decide that life is big enough. The moments are big enough. The opportunity is big enough where I believe in myself to push. And when you do that, again, I know you know this, I certainly know this, those decisions are not always comfortable.
No.
But I will tell you, they are meaningful.
Yeah, that's where all the growth happens. This is so good, brother. I'm so excited to continue to build the friendship. For our audience, very loyal and engaging, about 5-6 million out. What's the best way for the community to support you?
Oh man, if you hear this, just hit me up on Instagram, or I'm happy to help you anywhere there. Instagram, Facebook, when you see that is for sure me. And then, or you can always go to kentclothier.com, or like we talked about earlier, the boardroommastermind.com. But man, I'm always there to help. So anything I can do to support you and your tribe, just let me know. This is where you heard about me, and I will definitely pour into you.
Yeah, done and done. Ken, hang up for 1 second. I want to connect you after. I want you to know the definition of perspective, authenticity, and wisdom from taking your life experience to spreading positivity, light, and deep truths. I could personally guarantee your best is yet to come. Keep on spreading your wings and leaving your mark on this world. So much love and respect for you. Thank you so much for stopping by and dropping these priceless, juicy nuggets today, brother.
You got it, my man. My pleasure as always.
That was so much fun, brother.
Dude, that was great.
Awesome conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, we got to find a way to get in the same room together, bro.
I would love that. Let's stay connected.
You got it, man. I will definitely hit me up on Instagram, and I'll send you my cell phone number.
Okay.
I'll do it that way. I'll find you on it. I'll hit you up so that we can stay connected over text.
100%. Anything I could do to support, anything at all, brother. I'm here for it.
The same, man. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Take care. Peace, man.
Have a great night, Kent.
You too. Bye.
Bye.